Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. All right, everyone, welcome to episode 79 of Tokyo Wave. We're your hosts Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
To get us started, here are this week's top news highlights.
Japanese government to spend record 55 trillion yen on economic stimulus.
Heads of Mizuho Financial and Mizuho Bank to quit over glitches.
Young goat disappears overnight in Ibaraki prefecture in suspected theft.
This week in Japan. Alright, so our first story. Japanese government to spend record 55.7 trillion yen on economic stimulus.
Kyodo News has reported that Japan will spend a record 55.7 trillion yen, that's 488 billion US dollars, on an economic stimulus package aimed at easing the impact from the coronavirus pandemic.
The package, including policy measures funded by the private sector, such as emergency bank lending to struggling businesses, will be worth 78.9 trillion yen, the sources said. The cabinet of the Prime Minister Fumio Kishida approved the package on November 19th.
Expanded from an earlier plan of around 30 trillion yen, the fiscal spending, also including government Zaito investment and loan programs, as well as local government expenditures, will be larger than the 48.4 trillion yen outlay for a similar package compiled in April of last year by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's administration.
Kishida, who took office last month and led the Liberal Democratic Party to victory in the October 31st general election with a pledge to craft a stimulus package worth tens of trillions of yen, is set to increase support for households and companies in an attempt to meet his goal of redistributing wealth.
Among the key measures in the package are 100,000 yen handouts in cash and vouchers for children aged 18 or younger in households with an income of less than 9.6 million yen, which is expected to cost a total of 2 trillion yen.
More handouts coming soon. Another 2 trillion yen will be allocated for financial aid for struggling families and students, while small companies reeling from the pandemic are expected to receive financial support of up to 2.5 million yen each.
To boost consumption while promoting the use of the unpopular My Number ID card system, the government will give shopping points worth up to 20,000 yen to individuals who already have or newly acquire the cards.
To fund the package, the government aims to pass a supplementary budget and an extraordinary parliamentary session to be convened by end of year.
One interesting thing about this 100,000 yen handout, there's been a lot of news about this and it's all over the place, but what it actually comes down to is a little bit less attractive than what it was originally pitched as. So originally, the 100,000 yen handout was for any household that had children under the age of 18.
Okay.
As in, anybody who's got kids gets 100,000 yen per kid. Cash. That is no longer the case. And so there was a bit of back and forth, and there was also some questions and some criticism that, why should rich people with kids get a handout that's for relief? So they went back to the drawing board, and now you're only eligible for the 100,000 yen handout if your household head has an income of less than 9.6 million yen.
So, without taking into the account the conversion cost, it's about like 90,000 USD.
Exactly. But the weird thing here is that the household head, right? So usually in Japan, the father is the head of the household.
Yeah.
But sometime in the past century, there's this thing called women in the workforce. And so it doesn't take into account total household income. It only takes into account household head income.
How do they determine who's the household head?
It's all registered in the nationwide system.
Ah, okay.
So say there's a married couple and they have 2 kids. And if the husband makes 9 million yen and the wife makes 10 million yen, they get it.
Oh, okay.
So their household income is, almost 20 million yen.
Mhm.
But because the husband's income is under the 9.6, they are eligible for the 100,000 yen.
Ah,
However, if the husband makes 10 million yen and the wife makes 0 yen, they are not eligible.
oh, wow. I can already see a lot of people getting frustrated over this.
It's all over the TV right now.
Yeah.
And so also, it's no longer 100,000 yen in cash anymore. That also was criticized, and as a result, now it is 50,000 yen in cash per kid and 50,000 yen in coupons.
Oh no, the coupons again.
Coupons!
Oh my gosh. And then go to eats and go to travel coupons.
We don't even know what kind of coupons. They're going to be special coupons.
Family Mart coupons.
Get that chickie.
Oh my gosh.
Up next, heads of Mizuho Financial and Mizuho Bank to quit over glitches.
Kyoto News has also reported that the presidents of Mizuho Financial Group Incorporated, one of Japan's major banking groups, and its banking unit Mizuho Bank will step down to take responsibility for a series of system failures.
The resignation of Mizuho Financial's president Tatsufumi Sakai and Mizuho Bank president Koji Fujiwara comes as the Financial Services Agency has issued an additional business improvement order for the 2 companies over alleged violation of the foreign exchange and foreign trade law in September of this year.
The banking group company has started the process to choose Sakai's successor with the aim of finalizing the pick by the end of this year, though the timing could be pushed back to around next spring if current top management opts to implement thorough preventative measures before handing over leadership.
Mizuho Bank, one of Japan's mega banks with branch offices across the country, experienced system glitches 8 times this year, affecting automatic teller machines and causing other problems.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Like, people just couldn't get into their banks.
Oh yeah, Mizuho Bank is like the DMV. You go and you don't know if the ATM's going to work or not.
It's crazy because they're like the biggest bank there, right, in Japan.
Second largest after MUFG Group, but I mean a huge bank. One of the main banks that I like to use.
Right.
Like to use is used very liberally. And it's a major thorn in the side of people who have to do business with this bank because reliability is so important in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, every time they've had a system glitch, it's been all over the news. It's been very bad PR for Mizuho Bank. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people have switched their main bank as a result of this flurry of bad press that they've been getting. And it just seems to keep on tumbling.
Man. So regarding the September 30th system glitch, which caused delays in some of its money transfers for foreign exchange trades, the finance ministry believes Mizuho Bank failed to take necessary steps to prevent money laundering before foreign currency remittances. Wait, so is this something that goes on a lot?
It's a little bit confusing. So obviously you go to the bank and you say, I want to make a foreign money transfer, right?
Right.
And obviously most of these transfers are legitimate, but some of them apparently aren't. So when the bank accepts the transfer, of course, they have to do all of their due diligence before they actually send the money. And so it sounds like what happened is that there was a system glitch, there was a delay. Mizuho Bank said, oh shit, we got to send the money. And just sent the money without completing all of the necessary due diligence. So the Financial Services Agency's view is that these glitches stemmed from mismanagement by inexperienced operators, as the system itself appears to have no major problems.
Although Mizuho Bank drew up preventative measures in June after experiencing 4 system glitches, the bank has since been hit by such problems an additional 4 times.
Well, the preventative measures were for the other glitches, but then we had different glitches.
You know what's funny too is a a lot of these preventative measures are internally decided by the banks themselves, right? So it's an issue of their software or their operations not being able to follow rules that they decided themselves, which is kind of ridiculous. But
well, if you've ever been to the window at the bank, this might not surprise you that much.
yeah.
How long does it take to do a wire transfer in Japan?
Oh my god,
2 to 3 hours.
Forget it.
If you've got all the paperwork. And if you don't have the paperwork, gotta go back home and print it out. Bring it back.
So we're not sponsored by TransferWise, known as Wise now. But I mean, like, Wise is my go-to thing. I mean, I would never... I try to always avoid doing an actual wire transfer via a Japanese bank, just because of how much of a nightmare it is.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time, though, before the financial services agency says, hey, aren't you doing money laundering? Slap! Business improvement order.
God.
So back in June, Mizuho Bank announced remuneration cuts ranging from 10% to 50% for Sakai and 10 other executives as a way to take responsibility for the glitches.
Shortly before the pay cuts were announced, Fujiwara was expected to resign, but the bank put off the decision to replace him in hopes of seeing progress with the preventative steps.
And that didn't work, so guess he's gonna have to start looking for another job.
I heard Chiba Bank is hiring. That's not a... Don't mean to insult anyone who lives in Chiba. I live in Chiba, so hey. But definitely a step down from Mizuho.
What's a preventative measure? We don't have those in Chiba. We've got that funny dog cartoon character, though.
Preventative measure? You mean those red alerts that we get all the time when we're working? Yeah, we just ignore all those.
So, Fujiwara-san, since you're the top dog here, you gotta wear the dog costume.
He's now the dog mascot.
I could actually see that happening.
All right, and up next, young goat disappears overnight in Ibaraki prefecture in suspected theft.
The Mainichi has reported that a young goat that was kept for weed management in a vacant lot in front of JR Mito Station, north of Tokyo, has been missing since late night on November 13th.
Yuki, the 7-month-old goat, was kept at the former site in Live-in Mito, a commercial complex which closed in 2009 in front of the station's north exit. The male goat is owned by a ranch in Fukushima Prefecture and had been rented out since mid-September along with 2 other goats, including one of his parents, to munch down the weeds on the lot.
The lot is enclosed by a fence, and Yuki was reportedly allowed to roam free inside during the day and was leashed to an iron post at night.
Restaurant operator Naritaka Hayashi, 52 years old, who was taking care of Yuki, had apparently tied up the 3 goats at around 11:30 p.m. on November 13th, but when he went to feed them around 6 a.m. the next morning, Yuki was gone.
The hook that connects the leash to the collar was found detached, and the animal may have been stolen.
Hayashi said to reporters, "The goat family is getting weak. Please return him immediately."
Hayashi is consulting with Ibaraki Prefectural Police's Mito Police Station, which is investigating the case.
Many elementary school children pass by the lot when going to and from school, and the goats were becoming fan favorites for their adorable goatiness.
I gotta say, man, I'm gonna say the thing that everybody thought but nobody has the confidence to say.
What is it?
The goat was being managed by a restaurant operator.
Oh.
Suddenly disappeared.
Was he eating weed all day?
I think the police need to bring Mr. Hayashi in for questioning.
Hayashi, how come you have red stuff all over your lips and your hands? Looks like you've got blood splattered all over your shirt, Hayashi.
So, how long has the goat been missing, and what did he taste like?
Oh, man.
Do people eat goats?
Maybe in some places, but it's just not an animal. In my travels, I don't see goat on the menu a lot. in most major cities.
So I just Googled goat meat and it comes up in Japanese first. So, uh-oh.
Oh, geez, yeah. We eat all the weird stuff here in Japan, so.
It's also big in the UK.
Huh. The UK and Japan have so much in common. It's really funny.
Driving on the wrong side of the road. They eat goats.
Island country.
Polite, kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah.
So, police are now on the lookout for a Japanese and or British national suspected of eating that goat.
All right, and up next on Tokyo Panic Room, we're going to talk about Japan's newly revised entry restrictions for new visas.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave.
The Japan Times recently reported that starting November 8th, business travelers, both those visiting Japan for work and individuals coming back to Japan from a business trip, regardless of nationality, only need to observe a shortened quarantine period of 3 days if they meet certain criteria.
So that is great news for companies who have been keen to resume face-to-face meetings in Japan and overseas, but had been putting them off because of a ban on new entries or quarantine requirements of 10 to 14 days, depending on vaccination status.
But looking at the details, the easing of travel rules might not be as good as it sounds. In fact, business travelers and their companies need to jump through a considerable number of hoops in order to be eligible for this shortened quarantine period.
Wah, wah. For instance, companies need to prepare weeks in advance, if not earlier, before sending an employee to Japan for a business trip.
Christopher LaFleur, special advisor to the American Chamber of Commerce in Japan, said in an email to the Japan Times, "While the ACCJ welcomes the travel policy change, we urge Japan to move as rapidly as possible to eliminate quarantines and to simplify and eventually eliminate sponsorship procedures for vaccinated travelers."
In a policy proposal unveiled on November 8th, the Japan Business Federation, known as Keidanren, called the eased rules a, quote, big step, but added that fully vaccinated travelers should be exempted from the quarantine in line with other countries.
Western countries like the United States, France, Italy, Australia, and Britain have exempted quarantine for vaccinated visitors, while China and India still require a 14-day quarantine for all.
Keidanren also called for the digitalization of all necessary documents in order to speed up the process at airports and immigration, where visitors currently must wait for officials to check the paperwork. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen in Japan anytime soon.
According to the website of the Japan Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, the company of business travelers limited to fully vaccinated individuals who are not traveling in countries listed on the Foreign Ministry website where coronavirus cases are seen as higher will need to submit the following documents online and have them approved beforehand. These documents include a application form, a written pledge that they will abide by the rules, signed by both the applicant and the company, a plan for where they will stay and where they will go with details from day 4 through day 10. Also, a list of fellow travelers. It's noted that groups can apply together. Together with those documents needs to be submitted a copy of the traveler's passport and a copy of a vaccine passport or other record of vaccination. So, in a nutshell, you know the procedures to get a visa to get into Japan right now. You have to put all the forms together and then submit those, and then you get a certificate of eligibility.
Right.
Then that's mailed to wherever the applicant is. Then the applicant takes that to their local embassy or consulate and gets that turned into a visa. However, this new process has to happen after they get the certificate of eligibility and before they're able to apply for the visa using the certificate of eligibility at their local embassy or consulate.
Parker, I'm getting a headache.
Really? Doesn't it sound so easy and straightforward?
The documents need to be submitted not to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of Justice like normal, but to the relevant ministries that have been newly assigned, depending on the industry of the business traveler. Rolling my eyes. Because the system is brand new, the approval process takes about 6 weeks from application to entry Japan.
So, guess what, Aaron?
What is it?
I just did this.
Whoa!
So, for a client, I went through this whole process, and because obviously the floodgates opened on November the 8th, doesn't that sound like the perfect day to try and do it?
I guess so, yeah.
It has been interesting. And so getting started first thing in the morning on November 8th, first and foremost, you get the documents, right? And the documents were published on the Friday before November the 8th. So I actually worked over the weekend to prepare the documents for the client. And so on November the 8th, first thing in the morning, of course, there's a problem.
They changed the rules?
No. To submit the documents, there's this different ministries and different divisions within different ministries according to the business that the company is engaged in. So if you're a manufacturing company, you have to apply to the manufacturing division of the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry.
Oh my God.
If you're a pharmaceutical company, you have to apply to the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. If you're a construction company, you have to apply to the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Tourism, and Transport. Also, it was announced on Friday. It started on Monday. All of these different divisions of all of these different ministries have been tasked with processing this paperwork.
I was going to say, like, do these guys know that they have to, like...
Absolutely not.
Oh my God. Was there a lot of phone calling going on?
And so you have to submit the documents per the written requirements on the health ministry's website via email.
Via email, okay.
And on November the 8th, when the application period started, there weren't any emails listed, only phone numbers.
Oh my gosh. So fax.
No. There's no fax numbers either. Only phone numbers. So you had to call some random division of some random ministry and talk to the person and first of all determine whether or not they will indeed accept an application for your company based on whatever arbitrary, line drawing goes between, which division takes care of which company. And then on the phone, they tell you their email address.
Oh, wow. Wow. I bet you were probably one of the first people to do this.
I actually, one of my friends is an administrative scrivener, and I also sent the documents to him so that he could take a look and give me advice. I called him on Monday afternoon, and he said, the documents look good, but I'm actually doing this for a client. I don't know where to send the documents. And I said, look here, buddy. I know that they're about to publish a list of email addresses. And sure enough, the following morning, they published that list, and I found it before he did.
Oh my gosh, man. Oh, that sounds just so stressful.
And so obviously the beginning of this process was kind of convoluted, but then you think, all right, the documents look good. You submitted the documents. Problem solved, right? Nope.
No. What's after that?
So several days later, I got a call back that some of the documents needed to be changed. And also, basically, the application was made. I figured, give it 2 weeks, right? So make the application. And so you actually have to write the date that you want to get your visa processed and then your date of entry into Japan. And on the forms, you have to put the date of entry, the time of entry, the flight number, and your seat number.
No.
So you have to book a ticket before you can apply for this new system. However, there's no guarantees on when they'll give you the approval.
And what the hell are you going to do if your flight gets canceled?
It's Russian roulette, buddy.
It's like a bullet.
Do you want to play a game of life and death with the Japanese bureaucracy? You feel lucky, punk?
I'm imagining a video game where you shoot a bullet And like you have to like go through all these different hoops and circles, and like you have to do it for like 5 minutes, and it gets increasingly harder, and like there's only like 3 people that actually beat the game.
And so, yeah. And so getting back to the process, so obviously you got to put a date on the form. You got to put a flight number and a seat.
Wow.
So obviously I told the client, book a ticket, book it now. They booked it over the weekend, put it on the form. It's on the document, submitted November the 8th. Then I get a call like November the 10th that, it's going to take about 6+ weeks. So can you change the flight?
Oh my gosh.
This is a very new system. Well, you only had 11 months to decide on the system.
Of course, no one was thinking about, the floodgates and
they didn't even create email addresses, man.
Oh my God. Yeah, they were probably creating the
they
email.
were probably creating them on November the 8th.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, and that's not to criticize the poor people in these random government ministries who have been tasked with doing this. I mean, to be honest with you, I was interacting with the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry for my client's application. They were very helpful.
Right.
But I could tell that they were definitely on a need-to-know basis on this whole shebang.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
And every time I call them, I feel like I'm calling like an airline's call center because I just hear all of these voices in the background. Like, just imagine that they're not having a very fun time. Because you know how many people are trying to get into Japan right now?
How many?
400,000.
Oh my God. Wow.
And so Japan has also put in a cap of, it was 3,500 people a day. Now it's 5,000 a day of these new entrants. So I guess this is the government's way of sort of roundabout limiting the number of people coming into the country daily and keeping close tabs on them, which is a bit draconian, but I understand the rationale. But this system is, if there was a contest for complicated bureaucratic procedures, these guys are going for the gold.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
It's a new level. The forms aren't that particularly hard. I mean, the explanations are all there. However, of course, even having submitted God knows how many bureaucratic documents in 14 years in Japan, I got another call after that. Of course, after the, you have to change your flight because 6 weeks, blah, blah, blah. We did that. We submitted the forms. And then 5 revisions later, totally, minor non-material revisions to the forms because it wasn't exactly perfect. Starting on the very first day of the application process, I got the forms approved next Monday.
Oh my God.
It's about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
To submit 4 simple documents.
Wow. I mean, for me, even the visa renewal procedure is very taxing and stressful, and I've changed my visa quite a few times to different, varieties. I feel worse for students right now.
Well, and so we're going to get into that, but I mean, as a wannabe professional paper pusher, I can talk about these things in passing because if there's a new hurdle, you just have to figure out how to jump over it. But imagine if you're a person working in general affairs in a company, or you're working, in the back office of a university. How are you going to figure this shit out? Nobody knows what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
There are no best practices. You can't YouTube it.
Yeah. There's no guidelines, or there's no clear guidelines, and they keep changing. And
Exactly. And even, administrative scriveners, the people who are, of course, professionals in bureaucratic procedures, because there's a certificate for that in Japan. Thank God. They're just figuring it out too.
Wow. So once the documents have been approved, they can apply for a visa, if necessary, at a Japanese embassy or consulate abroad. In addition, travelers still need to show a negative COVID-19 test result.
In triplicate. The complication does not stop pre-entry. After entering Japan, business travelers need to stick to the activities laid out in the plan they've submitted 6 weeks beforehand, from day 0 through day 10, during which they will be allowed to use public transportation only using reserved seats, such as on a Shinkansen. So they can't just get on the Yamanote line and wear a Halloween costume. They also need to be tested on the day of arrival, on day 3, and on day 10 before they are free of entry restrictions. That's a lot of tests.
Yeah, geez. Companies must also submit a report on how those travelers behaved during their time in Japan, including whether they followed the rules and whether they tested positive for COVID-19 after entering Japan. Yeah, that guy John, he was a real asshole, and I didn't see his test results, but it's probably positive.
Well, Joe didn't use his chopsticks properly, so, let's get him banned for 5 years.
Oh my God.
Don't want to see that guy anymore. New entries such as foreign students and technical interns will also be allowed for the first time in nearly a year, provided that they quarantine for 14 days, which will be shortened to 10 days if they are vaccinated.
Those 4 days, man, make all the difference. They will also need to go through similar processes and paperwork to business travelers, which must be pre-approved before they can enter Japan.
The situation for foreign students is quite honestly the worst. Foreign students who received residence permits between January 2020, that's almost 2 years ago, and March 2020, which is a little bit less than 2 years ago, will be allowed to apply in November, which is this month. For technical interns, applications will be accepted for those with residence permits from January 2020 through June 2020. Those with permits issued at a later date can apply in December or later, depending on the date they received residence permission.
Wow.
So people who have been waiting for almost 2 years to get to Japan, they have to wait until next year, basically.
Jeez. When you said the January, March 2020, my first thought is, what if they were going to receive it in April? What if they were going to receive it in August?
Later, much later.
Yeah, jeez.
I think if you received it this year, you can apply in like March.
God.
So, people who are trying to come over here to study, whose plans have been delayed for months, if not years, still have to wait longer. And of course, their priority has been diminished compared with business travelers. And already on Twitter, we're seeing lots of people, even avid scholars of Japan, announcing that they're giving up on studying in Japan because they just can't wait any longer. And they're frustrated and they're pissed off.
I was just about to comment on that. There's a lot of trends. If we look at the United States, in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of Japanese nationals at big American colleges and Ivy League schools like Harvard, MIT, etc. Now, it's no longer Japanese, it's South Koreans. I think they made up the largest ethnic minority at MIT a few years ago. So there's definitely these kinds of waves, and there's reasons for these waves, right? Because certain policies come in, and I know for Japanese, in order to get a visa in America, it's basically a lottery system, right? But back in the 70s, it wasn't like that. It was much easier for them to kind of come and go, and Americans as well. So this is definitely going to change history.
And it's really going to change international education. I mean, not just in Japan, around the world, but definitely there's a whole generation of future Japan hands or would-be future Japan hands, and a lot of them are getting pretty discouraged.
Oh yeah. There's some.
It's not that we don't want you here, but you don't get to come here for another 6 months, even though you've been waiting for a year. Sorry.
Some people that I know that have been, dead set on Japan and studied Japanese in college, similar to like I did, they're opting to go to Indonesia, South Korea, Taiwan. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, it's actually going to decrease the talent pool here in Japan as well, as far as
it definitely is.
So despite the hurdles, many universities who accept foreign exchange students are delighted by the news.
Hiroshi Yoneyama, Deputy Dean of Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Oita Prefecture, which accepts many foreign students, said, quote, "It is a joy for us that the entry restrictions are being eased, considering that many foreign students have been waiting to study at our campus, and many existing students and teachers are looking forward to face-to-face mingling in a multicultural environment."
And of course, this face-to-face mingling simply refers to cultural exchange and talking pleasantly in libraries and...
Not like that Sting song, right?
Which one?
Don't stand so close to me. In the music video, right?
There's no implications in this statement, basically. Or
It's
in the
not sexual at all, promise.
Yes, exactly. In January, Japan suspended the new entry of foreign nationals, including business people and principal, following an explosive virus resurgence and the spread of highly contagious variants.
Since then, Japan has only accepted individuals under quote-unquote special circumstances, such as on humanitarian grounds.
And if you paid Kishida $1 million or not, just...
Or if you're a famous DJ, as Twitter is quite familiar with.
Oh, wait, I don't know about this.
So there was this DJ who came to Japan to play this big stadium concert after things opened up a little bit.
Oh, was it like Fuji Rock or something?
It was one of those big events, and he was posting all of these Instagram photos in his VIP suite at this Japanese hotel, and people were like, "How did you get in Japan?" And he was like, "Just got in, bro. Special circumstances."
It's probably like Zed or something. So while Japan plans to continue denying entry to tourists, the government has begun considering how to accept such visitors by the end of this year.
Important footnote there. They're going to begin considering how to accept such visitors. They're not going to start accepting them. They're going to consider how to consider accepting them.
There's going to be some tests, right? They're going to accept 5 random visitors from country A or something. I heard.
It'll be like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. People will get golden tickets. There'll be like coupons.
They should do that. A big Japanese brand connected to the government. They should just have chocolate bars with golden tickets.
Meiji's going to be making gangbusters off of that.
Do you know how much those golden tickets would be worth? Holy, oh my gosh.
Elon Musk is like, "I'll give you $5 billion. I want to go to Japan. I really like Hello Kitty. I have so many meme ideas."
Parker, I think we should make some golden ticket NFTs that guarantees travel to Japan.
Whose picture is on them?
It's got to be some kind of dog.
I have an idea.
What is it?
It's got to be a Dogecoin ticket.
A Dogecoin ticket.
You got to buy it with Dogecoin.
Yes, it can only be purchased with Dogecoin. That's great. A Dogecoin ticket to Japan. But the Dogecoin, if it's a ticket with that looks almost like a currency, if the dog is there, he has to be Japanified somehow. So.
But it's a Shiba Inu.
It's a Shiba Inu.
It's already Japanified.
But a little bit more I don't know, maybe you give him anime eyes or something.
You can only use the ticket if you're a good boy.
Whatever, if our organization is responsible for helping them or not. If the restrictions are still here, you haven't been a good boy. You've been a bad boy.
Coming soon, the Tokyo Wave Ministry of Bad Tourism Policy. Sponsored by Dogecoin.
So the number of coronavirus cases has declined in Japan following this summer's 5th wave, and economic activities in Japan have largely returned to normal. I think, what was it? The other day, there was 70-something cases nationwide. Is that right?
Yeah, and so even some days in Tokyo, the number of cases has gone down to single digits.
Yeah, that's
and so
amazing.
It's amazing, and it's also weird because at the same time in South Korea, which also has a very high vaccination rate, there's over 3,000 cases a day at the time of this recording.
Yeah. This it is strange.
Is that a tinfoil hat on your head?
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up. but I guess since you brought it up, yes.
It's a conspiracy.
No, I mean, some of my doctor friends have talked about how Japan didn't have as much of an exposure to the Delta variant as other countries did. I'm not sure about Korea's current problem, but I know that compared to other countries, we didn't have a huge like Delta crisis.
It's because Japan is so great at social distancing and we don't have, crowded trains.
Yeah. It's also because when Japanese speak, they don't spit compared to English speakers.
Oh, yeah, like they did on TV with the piece of paper, right?
They showed it on TV, so it's accurate.
It must be true.
It must be true. It is true.
It's truer than true.
English speakers like us, when we talk, we spit everywhere.
Yes.
But when Japanese speak, it's very clean and they don't spit anywhere. Actually, the Japanese language makes it so the spit comes back and doesn't affect other people.
It's like a spit boomerang.
It's a spit boomerang. It's a spit filter.
Right now we can only hope that Japan will continue its low case numbers and we will not have a much feared sixth wave. And we can continue to slowly but surely bring people back into the country and make it a little bit easier to travel back and forth. I know a lot of people who live in Japan, ourselves included, were thinking about whether they want to go anywhere over the holidays or take a vacation, etc. But it's still, that 10 to 14 day quarantine coming back is not fun.
The 10 to 14 day quarantine, the paperwork involved with coming back, the stress of, what if you do catch COVID on your way back to Japan? What if you're asymptomatic and you just catch it? Or what if the test is screwed up and says I don't know. This is why I'm not traveling back. There's so many what ifs. I can come up with like 10,000 what ifs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and those what ifs will probably result in you having to spend 2 weeks in an Appa hotel, which is the worst hotel in Japan. So.
But overall, it is good news. They're trying to work out the procedures right now. It's a bureaucratic mess, but what isn't? I think it's a positive outlook, and hopefully by April next year, we can see some tourists coming back to the country.
It would be good to see. And obviously, people are looking at Japan very critically given the weird new procedures, but it's a start in the right direction, even though it hopefully isn't what people will have to be dealing with in the midterm. So hopefully it's the beginning of further improvement.
Hey listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.